Today is Thursday, May 9th. We are now live with the latest in the crypto world. It's 9:30 a.m. in New York City, 2:30 p.m. in London, 10:30 p.m. in Tokyo, and 3:30 p.m. here in Malta. We will discuss Bitcoin hitting a fresh high for the year with our experts Kevin Murcko and Jason Fernandez shortly. But first, let's take a quick look at some of the market indicators. The cryptocurrency index, CCI 30, has been trending gradually up to stand at the 3,000 point level. The top 30 cryptocurrency index has gained 2% month to date and nearly 38% so far this year. The 30-day Bitcoin volatility index remained virtually unchanged yesterday at just over 2.2% mark. The CoinMarketCap's website's 24-hour trading volume indicator has eased below the $50 billion level. The Messari website's Real 10 measure has declined to just over $1.1 billion. The Bitcoin dominance indicator has surged above the 57% mark for the first time since September of last year. This comes as Bitcoin rallied past the 6K level to settle around the $6,100 mark. This is the highest level since November of 2018. Ether shows some signs of stability around the $170 territory. XRP trades sideways near the 30-cent psychological level. Bitcoin Cash has retreated slightly below the $290 mark. Litecoin has been relatively flat over the past 24 hours, trading at close to $75. The Coin 360 heat map shows a mostly green picture for the large caps. According to the Token Spread website, the price of Bitcoin appears to be stabilizing on the Bitfinex exchange. Its premium has moved south of the 4% mark. The XMO exchange has the biggest single market spread. It is 0.1%. Now let's take a look at some of the characteristics of Solve.care. It is a revolutionary platform that looks to reduce healthcare administration costs. The blockchain technology is also expected to speed up payments to healthcare providers. There are two tokens in use on the Solve.care platform. Care.coin is a stable payment currency issued by payers, such as insurance companies, and it is not publicly traded. The other one is Solve. This is an ERC20 Ethereum token that is required to transact on the platform. The supply is fixed and the price is determined by market supply and demand. It was listed on the CoinMarketCap website this year and it currently trades at 16 cents. Now let's take a look at the performance of the digital asset groups as categorized by the Messari website. The infrastructure group shows no significant overall change. The asset class is just slightly in the red on a generally mixed performance. The media and entertainment category shows the top decline as it stands 1.7% in the red. This is despite Decentraland's LBRY credits providing bullish support. The financial sector stands 0.6% in the red. The Binance coin is one of the most bearish assets with a decline of more than 1%. The currency category is the most bullish asset class with a gain of more than 2%. This comes as Bitcoin surged past the $6,000 mark. And lastly, the services section shows most of the assets trading in the green, but the overall group is almost 0.5% in the red. This is how the major cryptocurrency categories have performed so far this Thursday. We will now provide you with an overview of most of the significant moves among the top 100 digital assets. There are plenty of double-digit moves today with both directions. These were the top 24-hour moves during the European morning trading session this Thursday. We will now go to a short break, but we will be back soon with our crypto experts, so do not go anywhere.
There are 180 different countries all around the world, which makes us grow in like a sphere.
We are stronger than ever.
Have these questions answered without disclosing anything.
AI field is mostly controlled by a few large corporations.
Much busier, bigger than ever.
In the mid-2020s. I do think that will come.
We should kind of keep in mind that we want the world to be a better place.
$15 billion a day. This is incredible.
People find a way to create infrastructure.
I think knowledge is one of the most important things in the world.
We laid the foundation for the distributed trust model that Satoshi builds on.
It does come with some risks, but at the same time, I think it's an opportunity for countries.
Individuals miss the boat on a market, they miss the boat. When the institutions miss the boat, they bring the boat back.
This is Blocks Live TV.
We are now back, and we will join our crypto experts, Kevin Murcko, CEO of the Coin Metro Exchange, and Jason Fernandez, COO and co-founder of AE Token. Hi guys, great to have you. How are you doing today?
Excellent, Leah. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Now, some very, very exciting news. Bitcoin has printed a fresh high for the year. The price of this digital asset is now above the key $6,000 psychological level. What is next for the crypto king and the digital asset markets in general? Jason, we'll go straight to you.
So, well, I said yesterday there'd be a lot of pressure from traders looking to take some profits. I'm actually surprised that Bitcoin was able to blow past 6K with relative ease. It climbed up to the mid 6100s, but is now at 6050. I'm surprised it didn't have to dip below 6K. If you look at the transaction numbers and transaction volume, they've actually picked up. And that implies that while there was tremendous selling pressure, it was being offset at least somewhat by a huge demand for Bitcoin, and that's basically kept it over the 6K mark. And to me, that's enormously positive news, and it implies that we could be testing 6250 or even 6500 by early next week, unless some really bad news comes out.
Gosh, some very, very optimistic predictions there, Jason. And Kevin, your thoughts for us, please.
Sure. So from my trading days, I remember something that we used to say to each other a lot when news came out, whether it was bad or good in the markets, and that's buy the rumor, sell the fact. Here, I think we have a little bit of sell the rumor, buy the fact, which is basically everybody talked about the Binance news, and it's expected that to have some real negative impact on the market. When in reality, it seems that what we're seeing here is that it had the exact opposite effect. So while traders or people in the market may not see it as a good thing, generally speaking, as markets mature, news tends to affect them more and more over time. So I think generally, as what Jason and I both mentioned yesterday, 6,000 is a key level. Now that we're showing 6,000 as a support rather than a resistance, as long as we stay above this level, definitely 6250, 6300. You know, every small psychological barrier we encounter is going to cause a bit of ebb and flow around that price point. However, we've been, as we saw last year, we easily saw Bitcoin roll through a lot of psychological levels. Now, I don't think we'll see that same bullish momentum this year, but it definitely is positive. Though, keep in mind, we went from 20K to 3K, and we're now at 6. That's a very small retracement when you look at the more macro picture, which means I wouldn't call this a bullish market yet, but definitely we're in better territory than we were a few months ago, weeks ago, really.
Okay, but you definitely do sound optimistic there. But we have also covered plenty of wild targets for Bitcoin that often seem just like pure click drivers. The latest one actually comes from Mike Novogratz, and the CEO of Galaxy Digital was on Fox Business saying it would not surprise him if Bitcoin was back at the $20,000 level in 18 months. So do you agree with this estimate? I know, Kevin, that you did say it's only 6,000. It's gone from 3 to 6, so it's not that far. But do you agree 18 months, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, 18 months is a long time. I think 6,000 is a reasonable target. I think the question is, will it be
I think anybody that follows a price prediction, especially when they wrap it around a specific amount of time, is just asking for trouble. Do I think Bitcoin will probably go to 20,000 at some point? Yeah, probably. 18 months? I don't think so. I think the next 18 months are going to be riddled with regulatory speed bumps for crypto in general. While I think it's good for the market as a whole, I think 2019 into 2020 is going to see a lot of shakeups. And it's going to see a lot of changes in the way the market actually operates. I think it's going to induce new and larger players coming to the market. It's going to create that's going to create a synthetic market so that there's actually liquidity to sell to these guys. That is not going to touch the underlying market. I generally think that the price predictions that are way out there, I think people are looking at. The problem is when if you're really good at reading charts or you're a really good, let's say, technical trader, you're looking at a chart of over the past maybe 8 years. That's fully 100% retail volume. So that's sheep following sheep following sheep. There hasn't really been any wolves inside of crypto yet. When the wolves come in, when institutional money comes in, that entire history becomes it's almost meaningless because the market is going to shift and change quite drastically. So I do not agree with 18 months. I don't agree necessarily with any longer term price prediction. To be honest, I think it's very difficult because as the market changes, and it's going to change, all that past data that people are looking at to try to predict the future, I think becomes, like I said, relatively meaningless.
Okay, so definitely a lot of changes in the next 18 months, but not quite reaching that 20K mark. And Jason, your thoughts for us, please.
So I don't think it's impossible, but I agree with Kevin that it's highly unlikely, mostly because a lot of new investors got burned at 20K last time. So I think it's a huge psychological number, and many won't be able to get past that easily. Unless, of course, Bitcoin spends a lot of time at 16K and then 18K, and then it sort of slowly gets up to 20K. But that would require a lot of time, and 18 months is not a real lot of time. So on the other hand, keep in mind that metrics today are much better than it was when Bitcoin was at 20,000. So adoption, outputs, transaction costs, on pretty much every hash rates, on pretty much every metric, Bitcoin is doing much better now than it was when it was at 20K. So it certainly has a greater claim to 20K now than it did then. However, whether it actually gets there, I highly doubt it in the near future.
Okay, so 18 months seems just a bit too soon. Now, we spoke about the Binance exchange hack extensively yesterday. You did with my colleague, Jessica. So it seems that there have been no official follow-ups from the exchange. Are there any developments that you would like to point out, share with us here? Jason, we'll go straight to you again.
Well, there hasn't been any specific to the hack itself. Binance did launch their margin trading service at around the same time, so that was interesting. One sort of warm and fuzzy moment that happened yesterday was that John McAfee reached out to CZ offering his help to figure out what happened. Remember, John McAfee is still one of the best guys out there in the internet security business. So he did offer that, and CZ was receptive and said that he would direct message for the time to call so that he could sort of pick his brains. But I think also the entire exchange, this Twitter exchange, was retweeted by Anthony Pompliano. So it was really heartening to see sort of the crypto community come together. And I think that's a good sign. But yeah, no direct news related to the exchange hack itself.
Yes, John McAfee did reach out, and it's funny that you mentioned that because he did actually have to say, despite him being a clown, he said in his words, he has 51 years of experience. So absolutely is heartwarming to see that. And Kevin, your thoughts for us, please.
Well, I actually tweeted CZ as well because he mentioned some exchange is blocking deposits, and I said, well, that's not because they generally like you, hopefully, or because their heart is warming for Binance. It's because, well, that's kind of the law. I can't allow stolen money to be deposited on my exchange. So obviously we do the same thing. We already have every wallet tracked. It's already inside of our automatic API system in our deposit and withdrawal system. If any money comes from those wallets, guess what? It gets blocked. But I think, John McAfee, even crazy people are good at things, right? So I won't doubt that John McAfee has a lot of experience. But remember, John McAfee started his business by creating a virus and then creating the system to destroy it. So I'm not sure I would want him to fiddle around with my my tech, where I hold hundreds of millions in clients' money under under cold and hot wallets. Having said that, I think that I haven't really seen any. What kind of worries me is that they were very. At first, they weren't very transparent, and maybe they didn't know yet what happened. They went down for maintenance. Then they came out and said that they were hacked. Since then, we've had no news. And obviously, over the last 24 hours or so, I guarantee you information they have not yet released. So to me, that sparks a little bit question in my mind, thinking what that information is. Was the hack worse than they originally thought? Did the hacker get access to data, not just people's money or Bitcoin? So I think for me, I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe there's no more, that no more was hacked than that first reported 7,000. But the fact that they haven't said anything else is a bit worrying.
Absolutely. We'll have to wait and see if any more information does come out. But what is next, in your opinion? What do you think is next for the funds that were stolen from the Binance exchange? Because blockchain transactions can be traced. So what are the chances that they might actually be able to be recovered with assistance from other exchanges? Jason?
So I think that ultimately, somehow or the other, those funds will eventually be laundered out and used. I don't really think, because there's always ways for them to basically send it to multiple wallets, somehow essentially launder it. Short of a reorganization, short of basically rolling back the blockchain, there's little that Binance can really do except secure funds more closely in the future. So I don't really think that that those funds are really going to be recovered.
Okay, sure. And Kevin, what do you think? You're also not as optimistic there. You know, you don't think that the funds will be recovered?
I think that there's that using the tech, and if people were actually, if there was regulation in place today, and that regulation guaranteed would dictate how different on-ramps and off-ramps have to deal with incoming funds, there's probably a very high chance, upper 90%, that most of those funds would be recovered. The problem is that Binance, Jason is right, Binance can't do much. But people in the community, other exchange operators, people that operate DEXs, people that operate things like local Bitcoin, et cetera, can definitely stop some of this money from filtering through the system. Obviously, some if it goes to the, well, what are you going to do about that? But at the end of the day, it's this technology that one of the things I talk about when I talk to banks and regulators is just this, is that if you guys are step up the game and actually understand how this technology works, you can stop a vast majority of these type of illicit things, maybe not from happening, but from funds actually being dispersed, let's say, to the bad guys in the end, much more than they can do in financial, in let's say your normal traditional banking. Amazon, by the way, guys, just came out with a story that over the past, I think it's 12, 17 months, something like that, their merchant accounts were hacked in the UK. They still haven't disclosed the amount of money, but these guys not only hacked the merchant accounts, stole the money, but opened up fake bank accounts and deposit the money. So this doesn't just happen in crypto. Digital money is easier to steal than physical, unfortunately. Point being, though, with the blockchain, this is mitigated by quite a high percentage, but regulators need to step in to help because, unfortunately, people don't do good things sometimes unless they're forced to.
Okay, so hopefully the regulators will step up and we're going to see a lot less of this. Now, continuing with, unfortunately, the pessimistic tone there, the Binance coin is down by approximately 20% from its all-time high that was posted last month. So is this pullback a good buying opportunity? Jason, your thoughts?
So I think so. I think Binance has been really badly affected by this. It's dropped something like 17, 20%. And I don't think that's justifiable, especially since they have more than enough funds to cover that. And they've essentially said that they're going to make their customers whole. So I think that drop is rather drastic for what actually ended up happening. Unless, as Kevin mentioned, some new news comes out and they haven't been fully transparent, or the hack was worse than initially thought. Unless some news like that comes out, I think it's going to slowly crawl back up and basically make up its previous gains.
And Kevin, your thoughts for us, please.
So we talk about retail. I talked about retail money, sheep following sheep, right? If this was a mature market and a company, let's say like JP Morgan, was hacked and lost 41 million, their stock would fall by much more than 20%. And that fall would be prolonged over the course of weeks and months, not just in one day. I think the fact that it's retail money in the market probably saved Binance from a further crash. What it does do is it sets a precedent, right? It sets a precedent that even the big boys are hackable. And that's not a good precedent. So I think that I think Jason's right. It's a buying opportunity, but only because the market's fueled mostly by retail money. If I put my institutional cap on, my Kevin institutional trader cap, I would be shorting BNB in a mature market, 100% off of this news. No doubt about it. However, considering the fact that it's mostly retail money, it probably is a buying opportunity, and it probably will see higher highs and probably in the near future, but only because it's fueled by retail money.
Okay, well, very similar sentiments there. Now, one of the biggest stories that actually came out today was Facebook has softened its approach to cryptocurrency ads. Very interesting. So pre-approval will no longer be required for ads related to blockchain technology, industry news, education, or events related directly to cryptocurrency. So is this related to the effort to sort of step into the space? What do you think? Kevin, we'll go back to you.
Sure.
Oh, Kevin, I think
yes.
we've lost you there. Having a bit of a technical issue. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, let's go from the beginning.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Okay, so short answer to that question is yes. And the reason is obviously they needed to undo that policy so that they own ads on their own platform. Keep in mind, though, that if you're an exchange, you still need to be pre-approved. So that tells me that not only are they getting into the stablecoin tokenization model business, they will become some type of exchange that will allow exchange between their token and probably Bitcoin and other major tokens once they get their structure off the ground. So there's a bit of an insight there, but definitely they removed that. It had nothing to do with anything outside of their own ambitions because they want to use their platform for what it's made for, advertising.
Okay, so all part of a bigger picture. And Jason, do you equally think that, this is part of them just sort of getting into the space?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I love this news story because when they first announced that they were going to block crypto ads, I was looking at my calendar saying, okay, when are these guys going to come around? Because ultimately, blocking cryptocurrency ads is like saying we're going to block internet ads from magazines, internet websites. It would just not be sustainable in the long run, even if they hadn't really launched their own stablecoin, because there's so many other cryptocurrencies and they're going to want some of those funds. But yeah, the way they've done it is somewhat selfish and sort of very specific to people that to cryptocurrency ads that would likely not directly compete with them. So it does look that like what they're trying to do is just sort out things to where they can actually run ads for their own service. But I mean, how it actually turns out over time, whether the ban is lifted altogether, I think that will depend a lot on how the industry matures and over time, particularly how Facebook Coin does as well. Because I think ultimately it's going to be rolled back altogether, and the same thing is going to be true for YouTube and a lot of the other social networks that have banned cryptocurrency ads. I think that's going to be rolled back too.
And Jason, it's interesting that you call it a slightly selfish move, because Spencer Bogart from Blockchain Capital said on Bloomberg that owning Facebook Coin will be like a gateway into other digital assets. He estimates that Bitcoin has somewhere between 30 million to 100 million users, but Facebook has billions. So could this provide a major boost for other digital assets?
Well, so that depends greatly on what form the Facebook Coin is likely to take. As Kevin mentioned, it does sort of seem like they would have some sort of a crypto exchange and a crypto wallet that allow you to sort of maybe trade back and forth into Bitcoin. And if that were to happen, that would be a massive on-ramp for crypto. And yes, absolutely, that would definitely be a gateway drug for a lot of people that are getting into crypto, new people that get into crypto via Facebook. So because Facebook obviously has a massive following. Not sure why it would be in their best interest to set up an exchange or to do it in any way other than a closed system. And another question is whether Facebook Coin will actually be traded on exchanges. That might bring new investors in, both to Facebook and then obviously maybe to other cryptocurrencies because they're logged on to those exchanges. But it really depends how this actually plays out and what they choose to do.
So many different scenarios, so many different options we'll have to see. Kevin, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, look, I agree with Jason. It depends on how they actually, everybody's speculating on what they think or how they think Facebook is going to actually, and I just speculated on it as well, about how they're actually going to run this tokenized side of their business. So that really does depend. Now, whether Bitcoin has 30 million or 100 million users, most of those users, the majority percentage are probably active users. Whereas obviously the billion people that, I know my ex-wife had like 17 Facebook accounts, right? I don't think any one of them was in her real name, right? I've met people on the street that have, one Facebook account for family, one Facebook account for friends, and then another Facebook account they didn't even tell me about because, they didn't want me to see the weird pictures they have on it. So I think that in reality, how the monetization of Facebook from an ad standpoint is one thing, but the monetization of Facebook from an actual, these are real people willing to spend real money on the platform is probably a small percentage of the actual amount of users. So it could still, obviously, Facebook has an effect on any industry it touches because it has a lot of people behind it. So yes, it could have an effect. But what is that effect? Again, it all depends on how they implement. If they implement something that allows people to get in and out of Bitcoin, then yeah, of course, it's going to induce more transaction volume on Bitcoin. Does that mean Bitcoin goes up in price? No, it doesn't. It just means there's more transaction value on Bitcoin. But it's still good for the industry, right? More eyes on the prize means eventually, well, it just makes everything better for everyone involved.
Very interesting. So no matter what happens, in your opinion, Kevin, it's just going to be good for the industry. Very interesting. Now, just finally, Ethereum 2.0 proof of stake testnet is now live. Some are concerned over a potential split scenario if all users do not move to the new chain. What are your thoughts on this? Jason, we'll go to you.
Yeah, so I think essentially Ethereum 2.0 is sort of is an upcoming new Ethereum chain that's supposed to improve security, scalability, and decentralization. The way they're actually introducing it is not via hard fork, but basically users will be able to transfer value from their current proof of work chains via essentially a one-way smart contract onto the new system. The idea is that computer operators who validate transactions will be able to earn 5% annually on a minimum of 32 ETH, so that's about $5,500 investment. And they would be able to earn something like $260. But when you factor in hardware, electricity, and other overhead costs of running a validator on Ethereum 2, and the annual profit margin drops, something to roughly $41, or a net yield of something like 0.80%, which is not really that high. But I think the people that would actually get into this would do it for two reasons. One is because they believe in a decentralized future and are willing to get involved even if it's somewhat unprofitable for them, and they want to make it a reality. The other group of people that would be interested are people who believe in Ethereum and are but slightly more irrational. So they sort of believe in the long-term potential for it, and they believe that those tokens will increase substantially in the future, and so they're okay losing money in the present because they want to accumulate a large amount of tokens.
Okay, and finally, Kevin, what are your thoughts? Why has there been no immediate reaction?
Well, I kind of have similar thoughts. To be honest, I think at the end of the day, it could cause some slowdown in transactions being processed on the current chain as people start to move to the new chain. It could also cause miners that are currently on the old chain, if they run their costs like Jason mentioned, and they figure they're going to make at least a slight return based on the benefits that are added on 2.0, then they may make the move. And that could cause, like, again, a slowdown on the current chain. If we have a scenario where we have something like a true bull run like we had in 2017, where Ethereum slowed down, I think it was taking some transactions over 24 hours to actually confirm, then we probably could have an issue. And that could be an issue not only for the old chain, but it could be an issue for the new chain, because obviously from a technical standpoint, laymen's won't understand the difference, and so the Ethereum name could be a bit tarnished, let's say. So, I think, though, to be honest, I think they probably them going away from doing another hard fork to actually just creating a new chain is not a bad idea. We're going to see if that idea in the end actually was a good idea or a bad one when we see how it's implemented. So we'll have to see. But I think overall, I think it probably won't. You probably won't see too much friction on either side. But I do think we won't see a market reaction until the market understands where that friction is.
Kevin, Jason, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having both of you on the line as always. Thank you.
Cheers.
Now, before we sign off, I do have a last-minute update from my editorial staff regarding the crypto market. The majority of the digital assets are trading lower, but Bitcoin has managed to hold the ground above the $6,000 level. The total market capitalization has been trending sideways below the $190 billion mark. Trading remains active and the 24-hour trading volume measures at nearly $48 billion. Well, that's all for this Thursday's Crypto Now live show. We thank Kevin Murcko and Jason Fernandez for their expert analysis. We thank the audience for joining us, and we invite you all to accompany us every weekday at the same time.